I mean, I think the easiest way to answer that is to say the most obvious answer. They don't want other people understanding the truth. They want to be in control of the narrative. I think it fits into the larger story of the elimination of oversight at the department. This is another attempt at eliminating outside oversight. And it's just part and parcel of what they're doing writ large. And they're trying to make sure that they are in control of the narrative at all times.
Steve, I'm just wondering what your assessment is of everything that has happened at DHS specifically over the last couple of weeks, because it's been a matter of weeks, really. And now you've got the agency in the crosshairs. I mean, literally, there's a partial government shutdown right now. Parts of TSA, FEMA, parts of the government, specifically under the purview of the Department of Homeland Security, are not being funded because of what ICE agents have and Customs and Border Patrol have done in the country. 2 Americans are dead. Many more have had their civil rights trampled upon. We heard from them in a forum on Capitol Hill. You have to be watching this as a former counselor at DHS like, well, what the is going on? Or are you?
Well, I don't, it's hard to know where to begin. I think a lot of what we've seen is frankly, the result of leadership and management that doesn't know how to run their operation. I would start with the lawyers. And, one of the issues that I and some of my former general counsel colleagues wrote about recently in the New York Times was there's a new policy about the use of judicial warrants. Mm-hmm. And basically, the ICE and the department has taken the position we don't need judicial warrants. We can sign our own administrative warrants. The FBI, the DEA, every other law enforcement agency in the country, when they have, they have a search warrant, they have an arrest warrant, they have to go to a judge. Now ICE is saying, oh, we're going to just sign our own. And all 6 of us who wrote that New York Times op-ed piece, we came from the Bush administration, the Obama administration, Trump 1, and Biden. We don't agree on a lot of things, but we agreed on this, which is that this is wrong as a matter of constitutional law. So that's point one. And second, the way the department framed this is like, well, this constitutional position was the result of some deep state conspiracy among the career professional lawyers. And that's the reason that for the last 40 or 50 years, this has been the established policy of DHS and before that INS. And that's just not right. These career people are the people that they should be leaning into and leveraging for their expertise and their honest judgment about what the law is. So I would start with the fact that they're just ignoring their own people and their own professionals, and they're driving out the good ones.
Yeah, ignoring them or don't trust them to begin with.
Yeah.
Deborah, you were the acting ICE chief of staff. I have talked to, under Biden, just to be clear, everybody, I have talked to a lot of immigration advocates and activists who say, because my thing is, were we just not, do we not know ICE acted like this? Is this new? Is there something new that's happened in ICE because of who is president, who is the DHS secretary? What they tell me is that there has been a culture of kind of ICE acting this way or wanting to behave this way. Now they just feel unleashed.
So let me start by saying I'm not going to be an ICE apologist here, right? Like ICE has always had problems. There's always been room for reform. I don't want anything I say to be me saying, ICE is good, leave them alone, right? What I will say, though, is this is something we've never seen before. Whether this was the product of a culture that's been unleashed, it's really a product of leadership. They're being told what they are expected to do.
Stephen Miller told them you can do whatever you want.
Correct. And there are some people there who are more than happy to do that. There are some who are really disturbed by it. But regardless, they understand their instructions and they're meeting them. During the Biden administration, we had guardrails that the Trump administration has quickly gotten rid of, right? There were enforcement priorities to focus people on immigration enforcement against people with criminal histories, right? We wanted to focus on public safety. We understood that impact on the community needed to be done carefully. So we said, immigration enforcement should very rarely be done in schools or churches or hospitals, right? There were these guardrails in place that helped shape what enforcement looked like and put some limits on how far people would go. And those have all been removed, eviscerated, just plowed through.
To say nothing of the surge that we have seen, right? Just the sheer number of ICE agents, CBP agents that are entering these cities, which is why I was struck. Tom Homan, the so-called border czar, was on Face the Nation this weekend. And here's what he had to say about the size of the remaining footprint in Minnesota.
We already removed well over 1,000 people, and as of Monday or Tuesday, we'll remove several hundred more. We'll get back to the original footprint, with the exception of the agents there to do the fraud investigation. Will stay there and continue their work until they're done.
Okay, so a lot of questions coming out of that. One is just he's not actually stating assertively what the remaining size is going to be. The fact that he is alluding to the fraud investigation, I think, is a tell. But I want to know from you, sort of holistically, how those of us at the table should be thinking about this question. Because yes, obviously it is important what is happening in Minnesota, the size of the footprint in Minnesota. But it does seem as though they are simply shifting resources to other places. I mean, the man that we saw protesting was protesting in New Jersey because he had seen a bunch of children running away from ICE in their hometown, and the video got captured on someone's Ring camera. So, like, to what extent should we be focusing on these drawdowns, and to what extent should we be asking ourselves, well, where are they going next?
Well, I think they're going to go somewhere. The massive surge into Minnesota doesn't make sense if you're just looking at immigration enforcement priorities.
Yep.
So it would only really make sense if what you were trying to accomplish was shock and awe. And I think that was the goal. I think they obviously probably went over even their goals of shock and awe. But I think the plan will be to go somewhere else and engage in a similar strategy, because if you're really doing targeted immigration enforcement, that's not what happened in Minnesota is not the way it looks.
Mm-hmm. It's not targeted.
The goals haven't changed. I think you have to understand it. Like, they may have drawn down in Minnesota, but they've gotten $170 billion in this one big beautiful bill, right? They have money to spend. They are hiring up. And the mass deportation goal hasn't shifted. Nobody has said that, right? They've all doubled down.
That's the question we need to be focusing on, because they cannot meet their quotas doing this in a lawful way.
Correct. They absolutely can't.
And the tactics haven't changed. We had some folks on our show that are in Minnesota right now who are either elected officials or superintendents, and every time they have said the tactics have not changed. When Homan went in there and said, we're going to calm things down, that has not actually happened.
I know we have to go, but I have a question about the mask.